it goes back to that belief and confidence and writing down those things that you're most confident in yourself. Because if you look at, I'm just going to pull like success coaches, like your Tony Robbins, your John Maxwell's and Brendan Burchards of the world, right? Those people are way successful. Well, it could be very easy for you to compare yourself if you're in that space, right? If you're in the coaching space or whatever, it's very easy for you to compare yourself. However, just remember, there are traits that you have that those successful people that you see do not have, and they wish they had from you. So I will tell you a quick story, Kim. I was in Whistler, Canada, and I was there on a coaching retreat. I was part of a coaching mastermind of these like really high level coaches from all around the world. And we were getting together for a retreat in Whistler, and we're all hanging out at lunchtime. And a couple of the ladies there were saying, we were talking about what we've been doing, and a couple of these ladies were seriously crushing it. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. You're doing all these things, all these clients, making all this money and making all this impact and doing the cool stuff. And I said, I really have been watching you, and I don't want to say envious, but and wow, I'm just in awe of what you're doing. And what was interesting is they turned it and they said, well, Kristie, actually, I've been watching you on social media and you've been crushing it. I can't believe all these places, because I was traveling a lot for business, all these places that you've been going and all these things you've been doing, and all these people are commenting on your social media, and how many people love you and support you and all this. My mouth dropped open. And I even did a YouTube episode on my channel about it. And I said, be careful of when you compare yourself to others, because those quote unquote others could be comparing themselves to you. So then none of that makes sense after that, right? So none of that makes sense. And so it kind of was, this was about 5 years ago when it happened. It was like a light bulb for me, and it helped me minimize comparing myself to others, because you just don't know what people are thinking of you. And frankly, it's none of your business anyway. Who cares, right? Do your thing. So it just kind of shocked me that these people who are like, I was kind of looking up to, like, wow, you're just amazing and you're doing these things. And they're looking at me saying the same thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense anymore. So that being said, being careful about comparing yourself, because this is something that I've told my clients, is when we talk about their dreams, and I say, when you write down your dreams and your goals and your purpose and everything, be careful, because they are your dreams, not somebody else's, right? So somebody who wants to be an Olympic runner, right? And I'm a regular runner. I run marathons, but I don't want to be an Olympic runner. So why in the world would I compare myself, to the Usain Bolts of the world, and, and all those types of people? Why would I do that? Because I don't want that dream. I want my dreams. And so those people that are out there crushing it, doing different things, that's for them. That's their dreams, their goals. So be careful of not only comparing yourself to others, but comparing your dream to others, and staying focused on yourself, staying focused on what you love, what lights you up, aligned to your purpose. Because people are going to listen to this podcast, say, I never want to be a coach in my life. That's not my jam. Sweet. But let's have you get into what your jam is, whatever it is. That's the big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that story. I just made a TikTok about this weekend. I was at a bachelorette trip and with a bunch of girls, and that could go one way or another. And it was so fun. And I felt like a lot of, like, if there was any complaining, which I feel like a lot of the girls were just confident and not like making fun of themselves, which is another topic altogether. But it was interesting because I'd look at this other girl and be like, oh my God, I love her outfit, I love her hair, I love whatever. And she would be saying like something negative about it. So looking around and, realizing that the thing that you are less confident about is something somebody else wishes they had. I think we all wish that we had what we don't have. And I love that dream thing too. Like, a lot of the times, the people that we're comparing ourselves to we have completely different goals, completely different dreams. Even for social media, like that example, somebody who has 1 million followers, maybe they don't actually want those 1 million followers. They want sales, but they're not getting the sales. Somebody with 10,000 followers is getting the sales. And, so, and as much as I say this, it's hard. And like you said, like you were just struggling with it. It's something that you have to continue to work on and continue to call yourself out on, that type of thing. And yeah, I think that's all really, really important. So kind of to close off like this hour, I'd love to hear some practical steps that some people can take like this week after listening for finding their purpose and making those first steps to going after it. Like, are there specific goals, or what kind of things should we be planning to do to get closer to our purpose?
Well, kind of like I said a little bit earlier, is first of all, number one, figuring out what makes you light up, right? So that's obviously the first thing, is what lights you up. The second thing, and we already kind of talked about that, right? So you write down all the things that you love, right? And that you're passionate about. And not just, hey, I'm good at basket weaving, but you could be passionate about, uh, I don't know, environmental issues or something like that. Like maybe that's what you're passionate about. Well, great. Then that's an avenue to go down. Or maybe you're passionate about helping animals, or maybe what lights you up is helping the homeless, or what lights you up is organizing people's closets. I mean, there are people who get paid to do that. Like maybe that's what lights you up. Who knows, right? No judgment. Release the judgment of yourself, because there's enough things out there that will judge you. You don't need to do it to yourself. Right. So I would say, as you're writing down what lights you up, release that judgment of, well, I don't know how I'll get paid and do all that kind of stuff, and I don't know if I'm good enough. Forget it. Release the judgment. So after you kind of write down what lights you up, the second thing is, what will you do and what will you not do towards your purpose? Right? Being very honest with yourself of what will you do and not do. So let's say you want to be a CEO. And right now, maybe you are working the cafeteria at a school, right? Okay, kind of seems like a very far fetch from a CEO. However, if you're working the cafeteria at a school or something, you want to be a CEO, what are you willing to do to get to be that CEO? And being honest with yourself. Now, let's say you have a family. Are you willing to go to school? Are you willing to go get your bachelor's in business? Are you willing to go and spend time in shadow under other CEOs? Are you willing to read articles and watch YouTube videos of other CEOs? Are you willing to read books, right? I mean, CEOs learn and grow. Like good CEOs learn and grow. Are you willing to read more books? Like, what are you willing to do? And some of that may involve sacrificing time, right? So instead of maybe watching TV 4 hours a day, you watch no TV, and you forget that, and you go and you read, or you shadow people, or whatever, or you go back to school, whatever it is. So what are you willing to do and not do? So if you're like, look, I need to spend at least 2 hours a day with my kids. Okay, great. Then if that's a non-negotiable, then what else can you do if that is what you really want to do to be a CEO or whatever, or start a nonprofit or a business, whatever it is. So really looking at what you're willing to do and not do, and thinking outside of your comfort zone. Because I'll tell you right now, when I quit my corporate job in the middle of 2020 to pursue my business, I was already doing my business, but for years. And then it just came to a point where I'm like, I can't have both. I can't have my business and my corporate job at the same time. I quit my job in the middle of 2020, and it was a pretty well paid, gushy job. I mean, I'll just say that. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. But again, what are you willing to do and not do towards your purpose, right? My corporate job was great. It paid the bills. I had, great team, great people there. It was great. However, that's not what my purpose was. My purpose was to help others, to help make a difference, to lead other people to their purpose, to help them on their leadership journey. And I was not doing that in my corporate job. So I'm not saying you have to quit your job tomorrow, whatever, but I worked with a coach and I got a plan and I made it happen. That was what I was willing to do for my purpose. I was also willing not to listen to the naysayers, right? There's a lot of people like, Kristie, are you nuts? Like, well, don't you realize what's going on here in 2020? And, people are like, are you sure? I don't know if you should do that. Well, maybe I could get you a job. Are you sure? Like you really have to look at your mindset. And so once you kind of figure out what your passion is, and what you're willing to do and not do, now, like I said, it's time to find somebody who will help you. And I always talk about cheerleaders, mentors, and coaches. Cheerleaders are the people that may or may not understand what you're doing, but they're willing to support you and help you and do whatever they can. Mentors are probably the people that may be in the industry that you want to pursue. So let's say it is a CEO, finding other CEOs that might be able to mentor you or give you some type of tips and tricks and things like that. And then third is coaches. Coaches are people that you hire, you work with to say, okay, I'm completely unbiased, but I'm on your side to get you where you need to be. And those coaches could be, free business coaches in your local area, right? It could be people from colleges, it could be anybody, right? But just people that you really trust and respect. And then the other thing is having that belief mindset, working on that belief mindset, having gratitude and journaling what you're grateful for every single day, because that is what's going to lead you closer to your purpose. Instead of looking at what you don't have and that you're not fulfilling your purpose, looking at what you do have and the blessings that you have right now. So that mindset, I can't stress it enough, having the belief and the confidence in that mindset and having the gratitude, working on that every single day by journaling, maybe 5 minutes every day. You could do it in the morning or you could do it in the evening. And just journaling, when I say journaling, you can start off with, here are the top 5 things that I'm grateful for. And here is one success that I want to have today, right? If you've never journaled before, you can do something like that. But journaling and being great, practicing that gratitude. And then I would say number 5 is taking action. What are you going to do every single day that gets you closer to that goal? There's a book out there called The Slight Edge. I recommend it to every single one of my clients. It's by Jeff Olson. If you are trying to figure out how to make that action happen closer to your purpose, every single day, decide every single day, what at least one step am I going to do to get me closer to my purpose? Whether it's talking to a potential, a CEO, or taking a class, or reading an article, or going on LinkedIn and sprucing up your resume, or whatever. Like, at least, I recommend 3, but at least one thing you're going to do every single day to get to that purpose. And then I would say a 6th thing that I would add is giving yourself grace, right? Giving yourself grace to be like, okay, I might not be where I want to be right now, but I'm going to give myself grace and say, okay, I am doing amazing, looking at those cool things that I'm amazing at, and I'm just going to keep moving on. So I would say those
Yeah.
are 5.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Very helpful. Sorry, by the way, I'm writing a lot of notes and like making sure I'm
That's
looking
good.
back and forth to your website and stuff.
That's great.
Um, but yeah, no, and I want to bring up 2 things. So first, the releasing judgment. I think that's a really big one because one of the things I talked about before, I think it was Tony Robbins or maybe it was somebody was talking about like name your goal and don't like laugh about it. Don't like say, oh, or like kind of downplay it. Like, oh, if you really like in your heart of hearts want a specific house on a specific street, why are you telling yourself you want to live in the neighborhood? Like, regardless if you get that house, like you don't want that. So your whole heart and soul isn't going to be in it. And you owe it to your brain to give it all the tools it needs. So you need to be completely honest and forthcoming with what you really want. And then like releasing the judgment, like you said, there's just no room for that if you want to be successful. I mean, it really comes down to that. And it can be hard. It can feel hard to like release that judgment. But as long as you're kind of addressing it as it comes up, like I think that's something that I do a lot. Like when I say something negative about myself, I try and switch it. And I'm like, no, like you're okay. Like you're pretty, you're cute, you're funny, you're smart, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the other thing that came up for me is the things that you want to do and not want to do. I think this came from another book, but something I always think about is the things that you do or don't do are like votes towards who you want to be. And I thought that was a really good way of putting it, because